heir to a declining dynasty among the primal blood, Ingor was considered unworthy by his own father. In order to prove himself, he made a pact with profane forces only to find himself half possessed by ancient spirit walkers of the Legion. Ingor the Spiritbound is a red-green seeker with an accuracy of 3, a damage of 5/3, a range of 6, a speed of 6, defense 12, health 16. Ingor comes with 3 separate abilities, the first of which is Essence Binder 3. Whenever an enemy is defeated during this unit's activation, you gain 3 Echo. We also have Death's Whisper. Whenever a unit within 6 inches is defeated, look at the top card of your deck. You can place it on the bottom of your deck. Finally, Regeneration 2. Whenever you activate this unit, it recovers 2 health. Looking at Ingor's legacy, we get the Effigy of Chaos. We get a starting Echo of 20 as with all dual-colored Seekers, and 2 abilities on this one. The first being Chaotic Impulse. Whenever a defeated unit enters your discard pile, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a spell, you can play it, otherwise you discard it. Finally, we have Cursed Resolve. Whenever you discard a card, you gain 2 Echo. So there's a lot going on with Ingor's kit that really points him towards wanting to kill things and wanting to sling spells. Between Essence Binder and Curse Resolve, we should be able to get a pretty good amount of Echo refunding, or Echo generation going on, not so much refunding, between discarding cards and destroying enemies. Also, with Death's Whisper, that particular ability doesn't care whether it's an enemy or a friendly unit that gets defeated, that you can take a peek at the top of your deck and shuffle it down. The Regeneration 2 helps Ingor's survivability a little bit, and having a 5/3 damage stat is pretty respectable. But then Chaotic Impulse also wanting you to defeat units, friendly or enemy, in order to get some extra spells off the top of your deck. So I think the gist that we're going for with Ingor is kill a bunch of stuff and cast a lot of spells. One of the things that I've come to really enjoy about Malediction, even though it's a new game, is that there's a lot of different directions you can go when building these decks and kind of tint them to your nuance to make them work the way you want to. And this is just one way that I think that Ingor can work. There's definitely other directions you can go with, maybe something a little bit more control-y, a little bit more punchy, but I'm kind of leaning into the gimmick here. So I'm gonna start the deck off with 2 copies of Chaotic Bargain. This is one of the green-red spells that Ingor gives us access to, and I feel like with these dual-color masters, Malifaux on mine, dual-color Seekers, that you want to include those. They just seem really tailor-made for them. Bespoke, I guess, is what you could call it. So this is a 2 Echo spell that you can channel, and it just states roll a die. On an odd result, you discard a card and draw a card. On an even result, you draw 2 cards. So either way, you're getting cool stuff out of this. If you get the odd result, you're getting a card for your troubles, and then you do discard before you draw, which is something, but that discard is going to refund you 2 Echo, or not refund you, it's going to gain you 2 Echo from Ingor's legacy. And on the even result, drawing 2 cards is great too, because spoiler, we're going to have a lot of spells in here that we'll want to cast. Next up, we're dropping in a single copy of Dreadheart's Presence. For 4 Echo, we get a swift spell that states choose an enemy that is being activated during this activation. That enemy cannot perform attacks. So this spell doesn't really lean into what we're wanting to have happen with Ingor, but it's such a powerful spell, and it is a spell. We want to be casting them, slinging them a bunch. We should have a bunch of Echo to be able to do this whenever we want. And based on the particular units we're bringing, being able to shut down an opponent's activation from being able to attack or be offensive, I guess, is quite beneficial, so this one gets slammed into the deck for me. Along the same line of big bomby spells, we're going to be throwing in a copy of Entrap the Mind. For 6 Echo, we're getting a channeled spell that states pause the current activation and choose a non-seeker enemy to control. It can use up to 2 AP to perform actions or use its abilities as if it were its own activation. Treat it as an ally while using its actions and abilities. To resume the current activation, return it to its owner's control. This spell can just cause a lot of disruption or add some extra force amplification that your opponent didn't really see coming. You know, move pieces out of position, use them to punch your own opponent's pieces to help out taking out the one that you're wanting to get rid of. I just think Entrap the Mind just is such a brutal spell if your opponent isn't really seeing it coming, and I think in this particular deck you almost have to assume that it's going to be there as an opponent, but still I don't think you can really play around it in a meaningful way. So once this connects, it's going to disrupt the game quite a bit, and I think that Ingor gets a lot of value out of that. If your opponent happens to have any cool exhaust abilities and they haven't activated this particular unit, then you can exhaust it and make your opponent down another activation, which is really nice considering the way that we're building this. Next, I've added 3 copies of Hunter's Sense. This is a 2 echo channeled spell that states, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 to your hand, and shuffle the rest into your deck. This has got a lot of interesting things going for it. It's cheap, so if we're getting any of our echo generation from Ingor or the Legacy, this won't impact us much, as the cost won't impact us as much. But we also, if we've been feeding a lot of cards to the bottom of our library, then we can shuffle them back in if there were ones where we're like, oh, I really didn't want to put that there, or maybe you wanted it later. This way you get to redistribute those. Also with this Ingor, I'm not saying that I'm building an engine for Ingor, but there are definitely times where you want to be having some kind of like tempo in order, or some kind of tempo of like wanting to drop the good spells, wanting to drop you want to drop units. And looking at the top 3 is a pretty big chunk of foresight, and the Hunter's Sense just seems like a really good fit for them, and 3 copies go in here because I want to make sure that every time I've got all this echo burning a hole in my pocket, I've got something to do with it, or something that I want to do with it, not just casting something to cast something. The next spell we'll be adding is a fun one for this deck, and that's going to be 2 copies of Price of Devotion. For 2 echo, we get a swift spell that states, as an ally would suffer lethal damage, choose another ally within 6 inches to be defeated. Prevent the damage that would be dealt to the original target, and it recovers 5 health. So Price of Devotion is, in my opinion, pretty massive. Not only does it not care how much damage gets dealt to the original target, you prevent it all. If someone does something like 15 damage to you for some reason, you prevent it all, and you heal 5 health for your troubles. And all it does is it kills the model that you're shunting the damage to. And with Ingor, we want to be defeating things, sometimes our own stuff, and then when we get to the units, you'll see that defeating our own units has some good benefits to it as well. So Price of Devotion is going to be a really fun play when you get it set up right, which I think should happen relatively frequent in this deck. Next up, I'm adding 2 copies of Ravenous Swarm. This is kind of like another dual color go in deck moment, but it's good for us. It's 3 echo for a channeled spell that states, if an ally was defeated during this activation, this card gains Quicken. Deal 4 damage to an enemy and 2 damage to an ally. We will be seeing a lot of things hitting the discard pile often in this deck, and our opponent will probably be wanting to kill some of those on their own terms. So by doing this, it's kind of like a weird version of the what's the stupid rebound spell? I can't remember. The one that lets you reflect wounds back in red, but it's kind of like we get to pick whoever we want. It's not just the model that was fighting us. We can throw this at someone who wasn't even activating, and then damage one of ours to try and get a little further towards our goal. Next, we've got another no-brainer spell. We want to kill units. So for 5 echo, we're getting a channeled spell called Unmake that just says deal 10 damage to a unit. Even if that's not enough to kill the specific thing you're pointed at, we have a ton of ways that we're getting extra damage out there, and the 10 can just get it to the point. Like, that 10 is just such a massive amount of damage to deal in one blow, and with Ingor having all the access to extra echo, we should be able to cast this without it really denting our budget so much for echo. Absolutely have to have this spell in there. Next up, we have 3 copies of Corpse Explosion. This costs 2 echo for a channeled spell that states, choose an ally you own. Deal 3 damage to all other units within 3 inches. That ally is defeated. So we get to do a bunch of extra damage to our opponent's units, some of our own even, and just defeat one of ours. So that's going to trigger a lot of the things that that Ingor wants. So Corpse Explosion as a 3 of in here is really good, especially when we get to the units that we're going to be talking about, because we can throw out a lot of damage with this card. We've got another big bomb spell as Cataclysmic Blast. For 4 Echo, it's a channeled spell. You choose a single point on the battlefield, and you do 5 damage to all units within 3 inches of that point. In my experience, it seems like a lot of the games of Malediction kind of get played in a little bubble in the middle of the table, depending on where all these relics are sitting at. So being able to just firebomb the center of that mix-up and dealing 5 damage to all those units, this is like unit killing spell potential. And again, we have plenty of units in here that will generate damage when they get defeated. So this can just chain react into a bunch of dead stuff. I've added 2 copies of Heart Stab as a 2 Echo channeled spell that just states choose an ally, deal 3 damage to all units nearby that ally, and push damaged units 2 inches away from it. So we'll do damage, I'm fairly certain we'll do damage to our own unit because we're nearby ourselves. And there's a little bit of board control with this, just being able to push things out. So if you do get into one of those clumps and need to make some space, this isn't a bad thing to have in your pocket. And at 2 Echo, that's something easily we can get from Ingor's Echo generation. So this should not be a big dent in our economy. This next card is a fun momentum play. We've got 2 copies of Back for More. For 2 Echo, it's a swift spell that states, as an enemy is defeated, play a fallen unit from your discard pile and deploy it in the defeated enemy's place. The deployed unit equips any relic the defeated unit had. So Back for More is, we do have fallen units in this deck, but being able to take a resource away from your opponent and then replace it with your own and then just automatically getting the relic is a pretty big play that kind of shifts the balance of the game quite a bit. So Back for More should always net you awesome stuff as long as you've got that fallen unit hanging out in your discard pile to come back. This next selection's a bit contentious for me. It's Gift of Flesh, and I only have a single copy of this in here. For 1 Echo, we get a channeled spell that states, choose an ally you own. It is defeated, and your opponent gains half the mastery rounded down. They would normally gain from defeating that unit instead. You gain Echo equal to that amount. So this card, for me, is something to kind of jumpstart the engine, I guess, if I'm feeling like it's chuggy. Having one of these in here can help me get rid of one of the things that I have on the battle or on the table, generate some of or trigger some of the abilities on Ingor and Ingor's legacy, and then I also get Echo for my trouble. So if I play it right, I should be able to get what I put into it at least. But this one I could easily see coming out for something else if this wasn't really your thing. But when things get slow, I want to make sure I have this. And with how much we're able to draw and filter through our deck, I think this can come up when I want it. And at least that's my idea on it. It's only happened once that it did something for me, but it was good enough that I wanted to make sure it was still in there. The final spell I've included is Thunderous Devastation. For 4 Echo, we get a channeled spell that states, during this activation on an ally's next attack, if it scores a graze, it becomes a hit instead. If it scores a hit, it becomes a critical instead. You may push the defender up to X, where X is equal to the damage dealt by the attack. So we do have a lot of 5-3 damage splits in this deck, and when you do the 5-3 hit that turns into an 8 damage hit that pushes 8 inches, that almost kind of feels like an unmake for a lot of those. So this kind of like loosely translates to an extra unmake in my opinion, and that's why I've decided to include it here. For 4 Echo, that's really nothing compared to what the generation for Echo is that we get from Ingor, and just being able to do 8 damage, like that's the tippy top of what we've got, is 8 damage in one swing, is pretty cool. Moving on to our first unit, we've got 3 copies of Curse Host Boar. It is a red-green card, so of course I've got to have them in here. But for 2 Echo, we get a Beast Abomination that has 1 accuracy, a 3-1 damage split, 0 range, 8 speed, 11 defense, and 6 health. So not the best stats to write home about. Pretty fast, though, so it can go to where it wants to. For the abilities, we have Clumsy, so we're not going to be able to equip anything to this particular unit. We do get Dire 1, that states whenever an enemy engaged with this unit activates, they automatically suffer 1 damage for their troubles. And then we get Death Throws. Death Throws 3 specifically. When this unit is defeated, units within 3 inches suffer 3 damage. And that's really where some of the things start to come to play when we're looking at what we want to do with this Ingor list. We want to have our units perish, and then when they perish, we get cool bonuses like getting Echo or being able to draw cards, but also being able to do a boatload of damage. So being able to send one of these cruise missiles into a clump of units and then just blow up with something that we've got at our disposal with all the spells that we've just talked about is pretty sweet. You could charge and then try to go for an attack. You might hit. Either way, you're doing 1 damage, and then being able to maybe do like a heart stab, or well, heart stab won't kill you, but something to destroy this unit, and then do that death throws damage. So you can start to see how this is starting to come together. We're also including 2 copies of Flesh Ripper. This is a 6 Echo Fallen unit. Specifically, want to make sure we remember that. That has a 3 accuracy, a 5-2 damage split, so Thunderous Calamity will be decent on this one. 0 range, 5 speed, 12 defense, a hefty 18 wounds. We get the Energy Drain 2 ability. Whenever this unit scores a hit that deals damage, it recovers 2 health. Death Throws 4, so whenever this unit's defeated, units within 3 suffer 4 damage, and it also has Clumsy, so we can't attach any equipment to this, or equip any attachments to this unit. So they're kind of like they can hold the fort in the middle and just be a big punching bag. We can kill them when we feel like it to do that extra 4 damage, but they should be able to put some hurt out while our opponents are trying to cut through it if we're trying to like beat on a relic holder or something like that. Mostly it's about getting the Flesh Ripper there is the biggest problem. But with being a fallen unit, we can bring it back when we defeat an enemy with back for more. We've also got 2 copies of Soul Whisper. This is a non-fallen unit, but it costs 7 Echo. It has a 4 accuracy, a 4-2 damage split, 12-inch range, 6-inch speed, 12 defense, and 10 wounds. We get Curse 3 for 1 AP. For each enemy model within 6 inches, the owner loses 1 Echo up to 3 Echo per activation. It does provoke retaliation. We get Essence Binder 3, so when an enemy is defeated during this unit's activation, you gain 3 Echo. And then Pinpoint. We have the ability to trace line of sight through other units. So the Soul Whisper is a little pricey, and it doesn't have as many hitboxes for something that would come with this price, but we've got 12-inch range, a decent damage track. Essence Binder can kick off to give us extra Echo when we kill something during its activation, and if we happen to be getting into the mix with things, when we're killing so much of our opponent's stuff, Curse can be so brutal. Being able to strip Echo from our opponent multiple times, because we would have multiple curses throughout the list, and that makes it so they just can't rebound real fast. So you're able to wipe the board, wipe their Echo pool, and then still be able to get yours going back. So you get to play in the Sprinkler while they're, penny pinching over which type of unit they want to bring back. We've got 2 copies of the Mini Soul Whisper, but this is the Anushva Disciple. 3 Echo for another non-fallen unit, but accuracy 1, 3-1 damage split, 6-inch range, 6-inch movement, 11 defense, and 8 health. We have Curse again, we have Curse 3, so we can make our opponent lose 3 Echo if there's stuff close enough to us. And we have Essence Binder 2, so if we defeat an enemy during the Disciples activation, we get 2 Echo. Really, getting the Curse off on this is pretty cool, but it's just a cheap unit that can enable some of our kill spells if we're not having any of the death throws things out there. But again, Essence Binder is great. I think that this is just kind of a dude to be a dude, right? Like, we're not expecting amazing things out of the Disciple, but we do need something to be on the table. Next up, we've got Tavor, Body Breaker. For 9 Echo, we get a accuracy of 4, which is one of the better hitting things in this deck. a 5/3 damage split, 0 range, 6 speed, 12 defense, and 18 wounds. We get the Regeneration 3 ability that states whenever he activates, he recovers 3 health, and then Ren 5. Whenever this unit scores a second melee hit against the same enemy during an activation, it deals an extra 5 damage. So, it's Muktavor is expensive, but we don't care about that because our echo production should be pretty high. So putting the echo into this piece shouldn't be that impactful for us. But Ren 5 is really cool because essentially that's going to do 15 damage in one activation if you're hitting with everything. And I think that Muktavor is just a brick that this list needs. We don't have a lot of extremely survivable stuff, so we don't mind spending the extra echo to get something that's going to stick around for a while. Next up, we have Sestinar the Silent, another 9 echo unit. This time it's not a fallen unit, but it's from the Legion pool of models. Accuracy 5, so I think you top out as the highest accuracy in the list. 5/3 damage again. 0 range, 8 speed, so pretty quick, 13 defense with 12 wounds. We have spell immunity, so whenever a spell would affect this unit, you may ignore that spell. So I'm pretty certain that if we were to do something like drop the cataclysmic fire, that Sestinar would not be affected by that, so we could just drop that and not have to worry about damaging them. We also have Ambush 2, so we get +2 damage on all attacks, or on attacks against refreshed enemies, so that takes us to a 7/5 split if we're attacking our opponent's stuff that hasn't gone just yet. And then we have Hit and Run, so whenever this unit defeats an enemy, it may perform a free move. So Sestinar really is a formidable relic holder. It's hard to pin Sestinar down, and if Sestinar is being aggressive, it's quite easy for them to walk on the wings of the table and get to some of those models that might just be holding a relic for holding its sake. Like, they might not have the great defensible stats. And even if they do, accuracy 5 with a 5/3 damage that can go up to 7/5 is pretty potent. So I think Sestinar is a really good pick for this list. Next up, we have a Thrice Murdered in here. For 8 Echo, we get a Fallen unit. So when we destroy an enemy model or an enemy unit, we can have Thrice Murdered say, "I didn't hear no bell," and come back. We have an accuracy of 4 with that great 5/3 damage split again, 0 range, 8 speed, 12 defense, and 15 wounds. We get Energy Drain 3, so whenever this unit scores a hit that deals damage, it recovers 3 health, and then has Phasing, so whenever a graze is scored against this unit, you prevent the damage. It has Flying, so when you're moving, you can pass over any obstacle with no problem. The Thrice Murdered is not a bad relic holder because it's got that Phasing ability to shut off quite a bit of the damage, and Defense 12 is good enough to where your opponent's not always going to connect. Energy Drain 3 is good, so when they do get those hits, you're able to punch back, likely connect, or you're more likely to connect with an accuracy of 4, and then heal that damage back up. So I think Thrice Murdered is another good pick for this list because we're not intimidated by the echo cost here. We should easily be able to afford it. Our final unit for this deck is going to be the Blood Feast Raptor. For 8 Echo, we get Accuracy 4, 5/3 damage split, 0-inch range, 10-inch movement, 12 defense, and 16 wounds. We get Flying so we can pass over obstacles, Dire 3, so when an opponent engaged with this unit activates, they suffer 3 damage for their troubles, and also have Hit and Run, so when we defeat an enemy, we can perform a free move, and we're clumsy, so we can't equip attachments. So the Blood Feast Raptor is... it's expensive for what it does, but I think having Dire 3 in this list means that your opponent might not want to be activating around them if they're engaged, so they might hold it off, but then they just die to the Blood Feast Raptor anyways, so they kind of have to figure out how they're going to balance that. I think that Hit and Run is also really nice with this, because if we are clumping or funneling our opponents into a spot, being able to like hit something and run off and go chase another relic holder is really important to us, or it could just chase a unit that would get us the mastery that we need to bump us over into the win. So I think the Blood Feast Raptor fits well here. It's just a big hitty guy that is expensive, but again, we shouldn't have to worry too much about that if our deck is doing what we want it to. For terrain with this deck, I'm of two minds. I decided to go with Starcast Halls because we should be casting a spell every activation, and getting one echo refunded or getting a discount on it should go pretty far with making sure we don't overextend or overspend, or if we hit a a a, a, a clunky bit in our engine, that we don't have problems with it. I could also see you wanting to do Flesh Gardens with this to do that extra damage to your opponents if they need to get into that terrain, and also being able to funnel them into a zone if they're trying to avoid it. So here's a copy of the deck, which I've left a link to on the Malediction Play Network in the description. And you can see that we're at 35 right now for cards, which I try to get as close to 30 as possible. But with how much I rip through this deck and how hard it is to trim, at least for me, I always have a hard time trimming. I don't really mind being at this number, and there's definitely some notable excludes that could have made their way in here. Like Endless Rage is really good with the couple of regeneration pieces that we have, and that we don't go really wide on units, so getting a refresh is really potent. Then we've got things like Forced March or Brutal Outburst, where we'd be able to do damage to something, especially Brutal Outburst, since our accuracy could be better. We want to make sure those hits connect. Being able to zap yourself for 2 and get +3 accuracy is quite nice. So there's definitely a lot of tinkering, some refining that could be done here. This deck, I don't think, is built in a way that's going to like destroy every opponent you come across, but it's a really fun one to play, especially if you like kind of playing the dancing game of trying to win the game but also not lose at the same time, which I know is what we all do in the game, but this deck actively does things that will contribute to you losing the game. Like you're defeating your own models, you want your own units to perish so they do damage, so you're giving up mastery for that. But you should be gaining mastery by doing all that damage to your opponent's stuff. So you might be doing something like giving your opponent 6 mastery for killing like a Flesh Ripper, but hopefully your damage that you do when you die ends up taking out enough models to offset that. And eventually the resource game is going to be so tight for your opponent where you're just overwhelming them with all of this big stuff and these really crazy big spells that you're able to just kind of point and click and get your mastery with some of these removal pieces like Unmake or Cataclysmic Fire. It's a really fun deck to play. I think Ingor's interesting, and I hope you enjoyed going through my deck build for him, and I'm interested to see what other people are doing with him as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.